Most early teams obsess over salary and ignore opportunity cost. If the wrong person slows shipping, sales, hiring, and morale, that cost compounds.
Some founders say, no one will do it like me.
That's a control story. Ask a better question. Is doing it like you the best use of you? If you spend 3 hours a day on teachable tasks, you're trading your future for short-term comfort.
People treat culture like posters and slogans.
Culture is what gets rewarded and what gets tolerated. If you say honesty but hiding bad news is safe, your real culture is avoidance. If you say move fast but every decision needs 5 approvals, your culture is control.
Most people think success is a product thing or a money thing, but the uncomfortable truth is that outcomes often change the day the right person walks in or the day the wrong person leaves. The hard part is that you cannot spreadsheet your way to the right people. You have to build a process, and you have to build taste.
Well, welcome back to The Passive Path. Today, we are talking about a topic that sounds soft, but is brutally practical: recruiting, hiring, teams, and culture. I invited a fictional guest for this episode, a made-up voice that represents the ideas from a long monologue I studied. He is not a real person, no credentials, no backstory you need to trust, just a clear thinker we can use to pressure test the ideas.
Appreciate the setup. Let's keep it grounded. The goal is not to romanticize people or treat hiring like magic. The goal is to show why people decisions are often the highest leverage decisions and how to make them with fewer regrets.
You use a phrase that is a little unusual, of collecting people. What does that mean in plain terms?
It means being intentional about the humans you bring into your work and your life, not in a manipulative way, more like a curator. You notice a certain kind of person, rare ability, rare values, rare energy, and you try to keep them close as partners, teammates, advisors, or friends. The phrase sounds odd because collecting is usually about objects, but the point is leverage. The right person multiplies your time, your clarity, and your outcomes.
So it is not networking for status. It is building a system around capability and alignment.
Exactly. And it is also admitting something that most founders and operators learn late. You can have a good strategy and still lose if your team cannot execute it. Or you can have an average strategy and win if your team learns fast and makes fewer dumb mistakes.
That reminds me of investing. A good market can carry a mediocre business for a while, but talent and execution decide what survives.
That's a good parallel. In investing, you care about compounding. In teams, compounding is what happens when trust, standards, and communication improve together. The wrong hire is like negative compounding. It does not just fail to add, it creates drag across everyone else.
You also argue it is not primarily a technology game, it is a recruiting game.
In many industries, yes. Tools matter, but tools are accessible. People are not. A talented team will usually find a way to ship, to sell, to fix. A weak team will turn every tool into a mess, even the best tool.
Here is the part people dislike. You say you sometimes have to break the usual hiring rules to get exceptional people.
I do, with a big caveat. You do not break ethical rules. You do not pressure someone into something reckless, but you do break the comfortable rules that only hire if there is an open role, or only hire inside the budget band, or only hire locally, or only hire with a perfect resume. Exceptional people rarely fit neatly into your org chart.
Give me an example that does not sound like a movie plot.
Sure. Imagine you meet someone who is clearly a 10 out of 10 at building communities, partnerships, and momentum. You do not currently have head of community in the plan, but you can feel that this person would unlock distribution and retention. The normal rule says, wait until the role exists. The high leverage move is to create a role around the person, then backfill whatever you were going to do yourself.
That is uncomfortable for managers. It also feels risky for budgeting.
It is risky, which is why you need a framework. Break rules does not mean act on vibes. It means you raise your standard for value and you become flexible on packaging.
Let's talk about standards. What is your simplest test for whether someone is worth collecting?
Two tests. First, do they raise the average around them? Second, do they create energy instead of draining it?
Say more about raise the average. Make it measurable.
Think of your team like a portfolio. If you add one new asset, does the expected return of the portfolio go up? In a team, the expected return is output, judgment, pace, and reliability. A bar raising higher makes other people better because standards rise and problems get solved faster. A bar maintaining higher might be fine short term, but it does not change your trajectory. A bar lowering higher forces the team to spend time compensating, explaining, cleaning up, and emotionally managing.
And the energy test.
Everyone recognizes it. After you talk to certain people, you feel sharper, you want to build. After you talk to others, you feel foggy, defensive, or tired. It is not about being extroverted. It is about clarity, ownership, and constructive energy. The tricky part is that some people can feel exciting while still being chaotic, so energy is necessary, not sufficient.
That is a good warning. Some people are wired, but they burn the house down.
Exactly. So you pair it with the bar test and a third filter, alignment.
Alignment with what? Values, mission, working style.
All of it, but in a practical way. Alignment means you can predict their decisions under pressure. If you value honesty and they value looking good, you will have a future problem. If you value speed and they value perfect consensus, you will have a future problem. You do not need identical personalities. You need compatible defaults.
In personal finance terms, that is like risk tolerance. Two investors can both want wealth, but one panics at volatility and the other does not.
Exactly. Teams break when stress reveals incompatible defaults.
Let's move into a bigger claim you make. You describe a promised land where the business starts to run without the founder doing everything.
The promised land is real, but people misunderstand what it is. It is not passive income. It is leverage. The founder stops being the bottleneck for every operational decision. The founder spends more time on the few things only they can do: vision, judgment calls, key relationships, and the hard trade-offs that require context.
What creates that shift? Is it revenue, process, software?
It is people first, then process. Process without capable owners is theater. When you bring in seasoned operators, they take old problems off your plate.
Old problems.
Problems that have been solved 1,000 times. Finance, payroll, basic HR, standard legal, contracting, compliance routines, basic reporting. Founders waste years reinventing these wheels. If the problem is old, the fastest answer is usually hiring someone who has already solved it or buying expertise in a focused way. Then you keep your time for new problems, the ones unique to your market, your product, your moment.
New problems are the edge.
Right. New problems are messy, unclear, and changing. That is where experimentation and founder intuition matter. If you spend your best hours learning payroll mechanics, you are stealing from the part of the business that cannot be delegated.
I want to translate that for the audience. This is the passive path. So let's make it wealth-building practical.
Sure. Most people treat money like the only lever. It is not. Time and judgment are the real levers. Hiring, even outside business, is how you buy back time and reduce expensive mistakes. An accountant who prevents one tax mistake. A coach who fixes a pattern that keeps you inconsistent. A partner who stabilizes your life so you can focus. Those are people investments.
That is good. People here hire and think company payroll, but your life has a team too, even if informal.
Exactly. Your circle is a team. Your advisors are a team, and your environment is a silent team because it shapes your behavior.
Now, the part that everyone avoids. If you are going to collect people, you are going to get it wrong.
Yes. Anyone who says they have perfect hiring instincts is either lucky or unaware. The real skill is not never make mistakes. The real skill is noticing mistakes earlier and handling them with clarity and respect.
Uncomfortable conversations.
Exactly. You learn over time that most pain is caused by delay. People sense misalignment early, but they postpone action because they want to be nice or because they fear conflict. Then the problem grows roots. The kindest thing for both sides is honest feedback. and a decision while it is still small.
Let's get specific. What does handle it fast look like without being reckless?
3 practices. First, define the job clearly, not the title, the outcomes. Second, create a short trial where you can observe the work, not just the talk. Third, set an early checkpoint date and treat it as real. When the checkpoint comes, you decide, continue, adjust, or stop.
That sounds like a probation period, but with real intention.
Exactly. Most teams have probation in policy, but not in behavior. They keep hoping chemistry will appear. Chemistry can improve. Values and accountability rarely change fast.
You also talk about integrating senior people with an existing team. That is where friction shows up.
Integration is always messy. A senior hire changes status dynamics. Existing people wonder if they are being replaced or judged or demoted. The senior person wonders what they can change and what is sacred. The only way through is to have direct conversations.
Direct as in, here is what will change, here is what will not.
Yes. And also naming the emotional reality. This might feel uncomfortable. That is normal. We are going to talk through it. Avoiding the discomfort makes it worse. The team starts making up stories in the silence.
I want to ask about your collecting behavior in recruiting. Some people would call it obsession.
It can become obsession if you do it for ego. Done well, it is a long-term pattern of keeping a list of high integrity, high ability people you meet and staying in touch. Not to use them, just to keep the relationship warm. Then when a real fit appears, you can move quickly.
That is similar to deal flow. Investors keep track of founders before they invest.
Exactly. The best opportunities do not appear the moment you start looking. They're often the result of being ready when timing and fit align.
Okay, let's build a practical framework for listeners. If someone wants to hire their first key person, what should they do this week?
I'd start with a 1-page scorecard, not a job description, a scorecard. It includes 5 parts. 1, outcomes, 3 to 5 measurable outcomes for the next 90 days. 2, competencies, the actual skills required, not vague traits. 3, values, the non-negotiables in behavior. 4, working rhythm, how you communicate, how you decide, how you handle disagreement. 5, red flags, the patterns you know you cannot afford.
Give examples of red flags that are not childish.
Sure, chronic blame, avoiding ownership, needing constant reassurance, hiding bad news, performing confidence instead of asking questions. Also, subtle contempt, sarcasm toward teammates, dismissing customers, ignoring details they promise to handle.
And then you interview against the scorecard.
Yes, and you add one more step, a small paid trial project when possible. Even for senior roles, you can simulate work, a strategy memo, a customer call review, a debugging session, a marketing teardown. You want to see how they think, how they communicate, and how they handle uncertainty.
People are good at talking. Work reveals truth.
Exactly. And you also ask reference questions that target behavior, not praise. When did this person struggle? How do they react to feedback? What kind of environment makes them worse? If you could change one thing about how they work, what would it be?
I like that. It is not were they great, it is where do they break.
Exactly, you are not hiring a superhero. You are hiring a human with patterns. Your job is to see if their patterns fit your reality.
Now the controversial part again. You say, hire exceptional people as early as possible, but early stage teams say we cannot afford it.
That is often true in cash terms, but there are other currencies: equity, flexible schedules, meaningful ownership, autonomy, and mission. Also, you do not always need a full-time executive. You can buy expertise in slices: an advisor, a fractional operator, a contractor with deep experience for 1 day a week. The point is to stop learning the hard way on old problems.
That is a very passive path idea. You do not have to buy a mansion. You can rent the room you need.
Exactly. And one more point, a cheap hire that costs you a year is not cheap. Most early-stage teams overfocus on salary and underfocus on opportunity cost. If the wrong person slows your shipping, your sales, your hiring, and your morale, that cost compounds.
Let's shift to personal collecting, because you also apply this to your circle.
Yes, a lot of people try to improve their finances while staying inside a social environment that punishes improvement, not aggressively, just subtly. You talk about investing, they call it boring. You stop drinking, they tease you. You start a business, they warn you about every risk. You can love those people and still admit the environment is not helping.
So you collect people who make your future easier.
Yes, people who normalize discipline. People who ask better questions. People who do not panic when plans change. People who can disagree without turning it into drama. And people who have already walked through problems you are facing, so you do not have to bleed for basic lessons.
How do you find them without being weird about it?
2 ways. 1, you put yourself in rooms where you are not the expert, places where you are slightly behind. That discomfort is a signal that the room has something you do not. 2, you become comfortable saying, I don't know, and you ask for help. That filters for generous people and exposes insecure people.
I want to underline that the fear of looking dumb blocks learning.
Yes, many people would rather stay confused than ask a basic question, but basic questions are often the most profitable questions. What is cash flow? What is a good mortgage structure? How do you negotiate salary? Those are not academic questions. Those are life leverage questions.
Let's go back to hiring in a business. What do you do when you have a good team, but it is young and inexperienced?
You build a blend. Youth brings pattern recognition for new platforms, new language, new trends. Experience brings judgment, risk management, and calm under pressure. The mistake is choosing one extreme. All youth can become chaos. All experience can become rigidity. The best teams use both and create mutual respect.
How do you keep experience from crushing the naive founder instinct?
You make roles clear. Experienced operators should own the old problems and the repeatable systems. Founders should still own the direction and the key bets. And you establish a rule. Experienced people advise and build guardrails, but they do not shame experimentation. The organization becomes a lab with safety standards.
That's a useful image. A lab, not a battlefield.
Exactly. And you also hire for humility. The best experienced people do not need to prove they are right. They want outcomes. They teach without dominating.
I want a concrete scenario. Say someone is running a small online business. Revenue is unstable. The founder is doing everything. What is the first bar-raising hire?
Usually someone who takes a whole category of decisions off the founder's mind. That can be operations, customer support, leadership, fulfillment, or finance basics, depending on the business. The test is, what is stealing the most founder attention, and is it an old problem? If it is old, hire it out first. That is how you buy back the founder's best hours.
And if the founder says, no one will do it like me?
That is a control story. Sometimes it is true at first because you have not documented anything, but the real question is doing it like you the best use of you? If you are spending 3 hours a day on tasks that could be taught, you are trading your future for short-term comfort.
This is the part that hurts. Comfort is expensive.
Exactly. And money is not the only price. The price is your growth, your health, and your attention.
Let's talk about culture, because people treat culture like posters. How do you define culture in a way that matters?
Culture is what gets rewarded and what gets tolerated. That's it. If you say, we value honesty, but people hide bad news and keep their jobs, your culture is avoidance. If you say, we move fast, but every decision requires 5 approvals, your culture is control. You can write values, but behavior is the truth.
So hiring is culture.
Hiring is culture, firing is culture, and promotions are culture. The fastest way to change culture is to change what you reward.
There is also a personal side you mentioned. Feeling like an outsider and then building a tribe.
Yes, many high performers felt different early in life, not in a heroic way, just misfit energy. When they become adults, they finally get to choose their environment. They stop asking, how do I fit in, and start asking, who do I build with? That shift can be healing, but it can also become a blind spot if it turns into collecting people to fill an emotional hole.
That's honest. So how do you keep it healthy?
You name your motives. If you are hiring someone because they are talented and aligned, great. If you are hiring someone because you want them to like you, dangerous. If you are keeping someone because you fear conflict, dangerous. Healthy collecting is about mutual value, clear expectations, and respect.
Let's make this actionable. I want a listener checklist for collecting people in the next 30 days.
Here's a practical list. 1. Write your bar. Define what raise the average means for you in outcomes and behavior. 2. List your old problems. Write down the recurring tasks and decisions that drain you. Identify which are old problems that someone else can solve. 3. Build a small pipeline. Keep a simple list of people you respect. Even if you are not hiring today, stay in touch in a normal, non-needy way. 4. Add a trial step. For the next hire, do not rely only on interviews. Observe work. 5. Schedule the uncomfortable conversation earlier. If someone is not aligned, do not wait 3 months. Address it in 2 weeks. 6. Audit your personal circle. Who makes you clearer? Who makes you smaller? Decide what boundaries need to change.
I want to expand the audit your circle part, because some people will misread that as cut everyone off.
You do not have to cut people off. You can change exposure. You can keep love and reduce influence. You can choose to spend more time with builders and less time with chronic complainers. The goal is not superiority. The goal is alignment with the life you say you want.
Before we close, I want you to push back on something. The phrase collecting people can sound transactional. How do you keep the human part?
By making it mutual. You do not collect someone like an asset. You create conditions where both people win. You show respect through clarity, fair exchange, and honest feedback. And you accept that sometimes the right person is not right for you, and you let them go without bitterness.
That is a mature point. In investing, you can love a company and still not buy the stock. Fit matters.
Exactly. And one more thought. People think hiring is a single decision. It is not. It is a continuous discipline. You are always shaping the team by who you hire, who you develop, and who you tolerate.
Let me summarize in the passive path language. Wealth is built with leverage. Leverage is built with people, process, and capital. If you ignore people, the other two break.
That's right.
And if someone listening takes only one action, it would be this. Stop treating old problems as personal character building. Solve them with people who already know the answers. Save your best attention for the problems that actually require you.
Perfect. Thanks for keeping it calm and practical.
Thanks for having me. Take care and build your circle with intention.